Live.
Thank you. This is Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. Committee of the Whole, Finance, Administration, and Communication. All council members are present. 4 of us are in chambers, Councilmember Stewart, Kritzer, Anderson, and me. And online is Forsyth Salahuddin, and Nueva Camina. And we have 5 items, I believe. And we will get started with our Parks Director, Director Hamilton, and item 1.
Yes, good afternoon, Director Lorene Hamilton for the Parks and Recreation Department. I'm here today for a lease amendment with the Lake Washington School District for our lease of the old Redmond Schoolhouse. This is a 5-year lease that council approved back in 2020 and became effective in 2021. Our lease agreement with Lake Washington School District states that our lease each year will increase by CPI, but that after 2 years of the lease, we would also revisit the janitorial and utility costs. The old Redmond Schoolhouse was vacated by the city of Redmond in 2018 and then updated by the school district and then was closed during the pandemic. And so there was just not a firm understanding as to what the new utility costs would be or the janitorial costs for the portion that we would be leasing from the school district would be in actuality. And so I met with the Lake Washington School District, and it was found that the utilities and janitorial costs were this $13,000 and some change for this year's lease amendment. And then we would also come back next year to do an additional lease amendment for the 2025 lease. The lease will be up at the end of 2025, and so at that time we would renegotiate a lease agreement with the Lake Washington School District if it was found that we wanted to continue to lease the old Redmond Schoolhouse for our recreation programming. So today we are looking to move this approval for the amendment to the lease agreement in the amount of $13,463 onto the consent agenda for our April 16th business meeting. Are there any questions?
Yeah, perfect. Any questions from council? This is a pretty straightforward. I think the lease actually covered this eventuality, and now we're seeing it, and it's $13,000. So if I don't see hands raised, I'm not going to be surprised.
One online.
I think we're good.
Councilmember
Oh,
Salahuddin.
Oh, where is it? Oh yeah, sorry. Salahuddin, Councilmember. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong screen, but I see.
All
you now.
good. Appreciate it. No question. Just a really brief comment. If anyone hasn't had the opportunity to go visit the old Redmond Schoolhouse after it's been renovated, particularly they're hosting the Early Learning Center, and my mom actually works there. So I'm really excited about voting, moving this forward and voting in favor of this. So really exciting. Thank you for bringing this forward.
Yep.
Perfect. Any objections to this going on consent? I see no objections, so I think we're good. Thank you. Item 2 is Enterprise Data and GIS Program Update. I'm really excited to hear about this. It's been a few months. Take it away.
Right? Okay, sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. CIO Marchand here. I'm here with Melissa Brady, the manager of our Enterprise Data Management and GIS department, and she is going to give you a brief overview of some of the fantastic work her team has done over the past year and some of the initiatives on their docket.
And just to be clear, there's no ask. This is information only, correct?
This is just information, yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Let me just get my things in order here so I can read everything. Okay. Good afternoon, Council. My name is Melissa Brady, and I manage the city's Enterprise Data and GIS program. I'm pleased to have the opportunity today to present a summary of the significant achievements of our program in 2023 and to also shed some light on some forthcoming initiatives in 2024. Many of the projects I will discuss this afternoon are accessible via the redmond.gov, and the links are provided in your council packet. First, a little bit of background. Excuse me. Let me get that right. Sorry. First, a little background on the program. The Enterprise Data and GIS Group is responsible for the development, maintenance, and administration of the city's enterprise data programs. We closely collaborate with the city departments to establish data pipelines, data warehouses, reports, dashboards, and story maps, all aimed at facilitating informed data-driven decision-making. At the heart of our data platform are Microsoft and Esri technologies, including Microsoft Azure Data Lake, Synapse, Data Factories, Power BI, and Esri Story Maps and Hub. So to our major accomplishments of 2023. The year 2023 witnessed significant progress for our data team as we expanded our cloud-based data platform. The first major project to be hosted in that environment was our new financial reporting system. This was developed through collaboration with TIS Finance and our D365 consultant, HSO. This system seamlessly integrates legacy Dynamics 2012 data with our new D365 financial system in a robust data warehouse. It offers interactive, near real-time reporting that is both user-friendly and adaptable. While the current system predominantly presents tabular data, our future aspirations include incorporating additional visualizations, including charts and graphs, to enhance our storytelling. Furthermore, there is growing interest in developing public-facing financial dashboards to facilitate easier access to our financial data and to increase our transparency. In alignment with our commitment to enhancing public access to vital data, we have expanded and refreshed our environmental sustainability dashboard and introduced a new demographics dashboard on redmond.gov. The Environmental Sustainability Dashboard, which was initially launched in 2022, underwent a refresh process this year with updated data to ensure its relevance. Additionally, new environmental data visualizations were introduced depicting fish barriers on Class 2 streams and stream length and complexity rated as good or better. The newly developed demographics dashboard is a collaborative effort with the planning department, and it addresses the many demographic data requests staff receive from various stakeholders. The dashboard and the underlying data repository provide a one-stop shop for authoritative demographics data that is needed for numerous plans, reports, and grants. In 2023, we released the first iteration of the dashboard featuring population and housing data from the Office of Financial Management, and we also included covered employment data from the Puget Sound Regional Council. Looking ahead to 2024, we further aim to expand the dashboard to encompass age, sex, race and ethnicity, educational attainment, and place of birth data, all sourced from the U.S. Census. The demographics dashboard is an ongoing project slated for continued expansion as we acquire additional data sources. In another collaborative effort with the planning department, we crafted 2 story maps to support the Redmond 2050 comprehensive plan. These story maps integrate interactive maps with multimedia content and narratives to articulate our stories effectively. The first story map, Suburb to City, illustrated the various development alternatives aimed at accommodating anticipated growth within the city. The second, Complete Neighborhood, serves as a tool to visualize our efforts in fostering complete neighborhoods where residents can access essential amenities within walking or biking distances from their homes. In 2024, we intend to broaden our story maps portfolio by introducing a new narrative focused on forthcoming zoning changes aimed at preparing our community for future developments. Looking to the future, if I can get my slide to go. There we go. Looking ahead to 2024, we have several noteworthy initiatives in progress. The first one is the Community Health Dashboard. TIS is collaborating with planning, police, fire, and the executive department to develop an interactive community health dashboard. The public-facing dashboard will combine data from multiple systems, spotlighting our client care activities and monitoring performance metrics. The next initiative is the Snowplow Tracker. In partnership with Public Works, TIS is developing an interactive web map for the public to track snow plows during winter storm events. This initiative aims to provide residents, businesses, and visitors with access to near real-time data on snowplow activities, and when coupled with insights from our traffic cameras, we would like to enhance the awareness of road conditions and ensure safer travel. Another project with Public Works is the lead inventory service line inventory application that we're developing. A lead service line inventory is required by the EPA to help protect the public from exposure to lead in their drinking water. This application combines a field data collection component that enables the Public Works and operations staff to collect data regarding lead service lines. Additionally, the application also hosts a dashboard that will be accessible to the public so we can showcase the progress as we're inventorying the lead pipes. Another collaboration with Public Works is CCTV web app. This application allows city staff to efficiently access results from the city's television inspection program, identifying issues with stormwater and wastewater pipes. The initiative aims to bolster the Public Works Asset Management Program while providing valuable insights for the Public Works Capital Replacement Program. Lastly, we're doing a partnership with the fire department and their DNI consultant in spearheading the implementation of an internal patient care record dashboard known as FireGauge. FireGauge is integrated with the Redmond Fire Electronic Health Record System and aims to streamline the review of each patient care report for compliance and continuous quality improvement. Future plans include expanding the dashboard to integrate data from other sources pertaining to fire inventory evaluation and training. In conclusion, these projects that I mentioned this afternoon only represent a fraction of the great work that's being done across the city with the city's data and the GIS program. TIS takes pride in collaborating with all city departments to maximize the utility of their data systems. Behind each of the projects that was spotlighted this afternoon lies a central data repository housing authoritative data. We remain steadfast in our commitment to standardizing data collection and management practices as we transition from a suburb to a city. I appreciate the opportunity to address council today, and I'm available to field any questions at this time.
Thank you. Council members, questions? Council President Kritzer.
Thank you so much. And it's nice to see you in person. I think you've reported to us virtually quite a few times, but nice to have you here. Thank you so much for all your work on these. These are really cool, and I'm a bit of a geek about dashboards, so really enjoyed clicking through and taking a look at a lot of them. Really interested in the demographics dashboard and curious, how often are we planning to update that data?
Most of the data is available on a yearly basis, so as we add it to our repository, like the census data is on a little bit longer kind of time frame based on their data collection, but every year we plan on adding new data sources. TIS met with the planning department, Public Works, fire, police, and I think they came up with about 50 different demographic items that they want. And so we're kind of working through, they prioritized the list. And so the first year, like I mentioned, it was housing and population, employment, and now we're getting into some of the census demographics data, but there's at least another 25 or more that we'll be working through. So it should be an evergreen thing that you should be seeing new data every year.
Great. And then second question is, especially around some of the demographic data on the diversity of the community, as you mentioned, that there'll be some of that that'll be coming out. I know as part of the respect, equity, diversity, inclusion work that we've been doing, that there was an interest in being able to make sure that we had clear data looking at the demographics of our staff internally, and that there was a need to be able to gather, track, manage that data in order to get a clearer line of sight into that and hold ourselves accountable to the goals we're setting there.
Right.
I'm just curious, is that on your radar as something you're working with other departments on, with HR or others?
You know, we had an initiative, I can't talk today, a couple of years ago where we started looking at that data and seeing how that was being collected in our HR systems. It's not on the list here in the next couple of months, but I could definitely go back and talk to HR and the executive and planning and see how we can fit that into the priorities.
Great, yeah. I think that's something that, from what I heard from some of the consultants who have been working with on that's something that would help us in the future to be able to track our progress. But you have a lot on your plate, so just wanted to kind of flag it as an opportunity to have those internal conversations, especially as we're thinking about demographics of our whole community and then the demographics of those who serve that community.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Got Council Member or Council Vice President Forsyth and then Council Member Anderson.
Thank you. And thanks for all the work on this. It's really exciting to see this all coming together. I know we've been antsy and looking forward to it for quite a while. So this is awesome. My question pertains to the traffic cameras. Noticed immediately the better quality on a lot of these cameras. Some of them don't necessarily look like they've been replaced yet. And I was curious if there are fewer cameras than we had before.
That would be a question that I would probably put to the Public Works Department. However, in our application, we do have the same number of cameras that we've had since, probably 2016 when we first rolled out the traffic camera application. I could definitely take that question back to them, though, to confirm that we still have the same number of cameras and what is the schedule for updating them to higher resolution cameras.
Awesome. That would be great. Yeah, maybe it's just that it's so much easier to actually view now that it looks like there's less cameras than it looked like before.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
Great, and thank you again for all the work on this. It's nice to see some dashboards and data. Everybody loves data. 2 questions. One was, you mentioned, I just wanted to clarify, did I hear this correctly, that we have DNA, or is it DNI?
It's DNI.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't know what that stands for, but they're a data consultant for the fire department.
Got it. That's very helpful. Thank you. I was going to ask about, the next question was a little bit more important, but now it's a little less important. So what is the storage time that we're projecting for some of this data that we're going to be keeping? Like, is it subject to our records policy in some way?
For which data in particular, or?
There are several dashboards you told us about, and that means a lot of data.
Yes.
What would be the significance of keeping really old stuff 5 to 10 years from now? I guess what's the plan for keeping the data in one place, because that could get to be a little bit cumbersome. So just curious.
Definitely. We're working with our security and compliance group, which kind of helps give us some guidance on that. And so for each of the data sets, we are looking at having a retention schedule.
Great.
So that we know when to purge the data. And then also, we want to keep the data evergreen. We want to keep data up to date, particularly like on our environmental data and the demographics.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilmember Nueva Camina.
Hi, thank you for this data. Like my colleague, Councilmember Anderson said, everybody loves data, or at least we definitely do. And this was a lot of fun to click through, so I appreciate it. I also want to thank Council President Kritzer for asking my first question around city employee demographics and if the data that we're collecting, if we're on target for where we are for our goals in that area. And then also thanking Councilmember Anderson for asking the question about how long are we retaining the data? Are there policies that mandate or best practice, I suppose, since not a mandate, for how long we need to hold on to the data, because as you said, it can become quite cumbersome and also expensive when we get into data storage, while still maintaining the evergreen of it. So just wanting to echo those two and thank my colleagues for bringing that up earlier.
Any comments on?
No.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that chance to meet with you directly. We obviously see the product of your work all the time when we're seeing the storyboards for planning and community development or meeting with Jenny Liebeck with the sustainability dashboard. So thanks so much for the global view of how things are going today. I really do appreciate it. I had one comment on well, I really also appreciated your attention and recognition of your work to establish the authoritative data, the trustworthy data for the city of Redmond. And I think it's really important to lift that up, that's something we as a city are striving to put into our community. As we go about sharing more of your incredible work with the community and they're able to navigate to it better and find it better, and as you said, ultimately for the whole system to just be more transparent, I got to thinking about the language that we use to do that. So back on the demographics dashboard, for instance, covered employment is the term used to describe the job sectors in our city. And there is kind of a definition as to what that means. But I wonder if a different word could be used and then a definition of like the source for why or where that data set came from. Maybe that could help tell the story better if the public is using this information. And same with one of the job sectors in particular. So the largest sector for employment in our city, it's labeled as services. But I think for a lot of residents and folks using this data, they would think, they might put two and two together given how outsized services are, but they might expect it to be called something like information services or, something that more closely resembles the technology sector or technology development in some way. Yeah, I don't want to project what the real answer is too deeply, but I just think that the language we use to tell the story could be helpful in improving the accessibility and trustworthiness of it.
Yeah. Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for your feedback.
Thank you. So my question is fairly straightforward. You have a lot of potential here, an explosion of things that can be done with these applications and with this technology. How are you keeping everybody at bay? Is this a question for COO? How is the city organizing what comes first?
You're right, there is a huge appetite for... Turn it off again? Oh, you're right, there is a huge appetite for data, and it keeps Melissa's team very, very busy. Prioritizing the work as it comes in is sort of a collaborative process. If there's a number of items that come in that are competing for her team's time, we'll usually work with the requester directly to figure out, which of these are most closely aligned with city goals and objectives, what are the timelines for them, and that sort of thing. So it's a balancing act, and we try to do that in a collaborative manner with whoever's requesting them.
So that was a setup question, just so you know, because I do see, I see obviously it's very important, and I appreciate the collaborative effort that city and the mayor's office has, but there are potentially policy issues here. So I don't know if council leadership is open to a different type of discussion around this potential, which would be what can we do, what should we do first from a policy, therefore a council perspective. I absolutely appreciate the understanding of what you're doing and the work you've done. It's remarkable, and I'm very excited about it. But I do think that as we go forward, I think part of that direction should come from the council as to how we achieve, what's our horizon, what comes first. So maybe this is not really a question for you, it's more for council leadership.
Sure.
Thank you. I'm not sure who was first. Well, since I called you out, Council President, maybe.
Yeah, I just wanted to get a clarification so we can follow up. So the policy around which types of dashboards or visualizations we go for, or?
Yeah, I think having a clear idea from a council and a city leadership perspective of what the possibilities are and what the capabilities are, and that understanding comes from staff, the people here who are speaking to us today. So changing the nature of the conversation, sort of giving council an opportunity to say, hey, can it do this? Here are some things that are missing in the city. How will this technology fit this need, et cetera? So I think it's something that we might consider doing in the next 6 months.
Yeah, I would say as a piece of feedback too is that, I think this committee, we could have some more touch points on this more often, just to be able to hear, how are these new things being rolled out going, as well as there's planning going on. We could also be able to give input into that.
Sure, and
here,
just to be
do a
clear,
study
my
session.
recommendation is that we insert ourselves into that envisioning about this technology, because I think it's bread and butter, so to speak, but it's also some real possibilities. And the better we understand it, the better we can direct the mayor's office.
Yeah, I just saying, I totally agree. Either we could use this committee for those topics if you want to put those on the agenda, or if it warrants a study session, also happy to schedule that as well. And I think that's a great idea.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
I think I can summarize that conversation in one question, which is, do we have a formal data governance strategy? How'd I do?
Perfect.
The short answer is no. The other short answer is yes, we want to work on that, and that is something that is on our plan. But we've recently hired some different folks around the city in different departments that are very engaged in the whole concept of data governance. So I think we finally have the right people here at the city. And as I mentioned, as we've moved from, I've been with the city for 24 years. And so our data program is so much different than it was 24 years ago. And the things that we could do back then are not what we can do now. It's not going to make us successful today. And so we are looking at putting together that team. And I would hope that maybe in 6 months I could come back and give you an update and let you know where we are on that.
That's awesome. I wanted to compliment you. One of the biggest assets to the city in your particular position will be your institutional knowledge and that whole growth of what we've done with data over time. So thank you. Thank you for being here and being interested in doing that. I would actually suggest that we add this to a policy agenda for the council. I don't think it came up during the retreat, but I'm happy to propose it for when we have our next follow-up, but something we could look to maybe early next year. Or if budget requests are necessary, anything like that, I think that would be really helpful. It's kind of where things are going, so happy to help with that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I think that's a great idea, and in light of the conversation we'll have later tonight around police technology, I do think this question around data governance strategy and data privacy and kind of how the policies that we actually put in place are really important. So it'll probably come up later too, but I think it's a really good call out.
Happy to ask the same question later, but they get a little bit of advance notice, so thanks.
Great. Councilmember Councilmember Salahuddin.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and echo exactly what Councilmember Anderson mentioned. I think that data governance strategy will be really important, especially moving forward as we have new technological and AI advances, but making sure that we're looking at data privacy as well. I know a lot of concern comes out of how much data is too much data, and if we have access to everything, what are we actually doing with it in a safe and ethical manner? So just really appreciate the conversation so far and the presentation.
Great, thank you. Council Vice President Forsyth, I think your hand is up.
It is, yes. Just wanted to say I'm loving the trajectory of this conversation as the data privacy AI has been on my radar, and I've been bringing it up for a while, so loving the direction that we're thinking about creating a new policy set for this and space to talk about it. So weighing in to say yes, please.
Great. I think, yes, thank you. I think we've said enough, and I appreciate Councilmember Anderson's taking my long explanation and putting it into a geeky format, so thank you.
Thank you for having us tonight.
Great.
Thank
It was
you.
great to have you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3 is Advance Travel Revolving Fund, repealing RMC. Who do we have? Oh, we have our finance people. Director Cochran.
Good afternoon. Before Melissa leaves the room, I just want to express how much her work on our work has been appreciated. I can't tell you how easy year-end forecasting has been. Numbers just at my fingers. It's just phenomenal. It's great. But I have Debbie here with me, and Debbie is here to talk about the dissolving of a fund that we have for advanced travel. It's a practice we no longer have in place after the implementation of Concur. So Debbie will walk you through what the next steps are from a Treasury perspective.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The item we are presenting is to repeal Redmond Municipal Code 3.44, the Advanced Travel Revolving Fund. We're asking for support to move this item to next week's consent agenda on April 16th. The city's Advanced Travel Fund was established in 1975 under Ordinance Number 685 and is in accordance with RCW 42.24.120 through 160, which provides the authority to establish a revolving fund that is used solely for the purpose of making travel advances. Currently, we have a $20,000 checking account at KeyBank for the purposes of advanced travel, which is no longer used, as Kelly mentioned, since the city implemented Concur last summer as the new expense reporting software and replacement for advanced travel. City staff are now required to either use a Pro Card while traveling or submit an employee reimbursement through Concur upon return. As a result, the city no longer uses the Advanced Travel Fund. If the item is not approved, the city will continue to maintain a bank account for advanced travel, which will never be used. The approval to repeal RMC 3.44 will bring city code into alignment with business process changes, and once approved, we will close the advanced travel checking account at KeyBank and transfer the full balance to the city's general primary account at KeyBank. Do you have any questions?
Appreciate the concise and straightforward understanding of this, so thank you. And are there any questions? Council President Kritzer.
One question, it says in here that the funding would just go back to a different account that we have our other money in. Would it go, in terms of the budget, would it just go to the general fund?
It wouldn't have an impact to the budget. It's just sort of the cash on the side that we use to fund things. So things are accounted for in the budget.
But is it currently, though, like a $20,000? I guess because we didn't budget for it. It's just existing from the past.
So we have our budget, and then we have kind of our cash and our investments. And so they're not tied.
Got it.
So it's just sort of moving money around that helps to support the budget.
Okay. So it would just be but it would be then available to go towards general fund expenses, the additional $20,000?
It would no longer be restricted, yes.
Okay, great.
Council Vice President Forsyth.
Thank you. When we had our council leadership planning on this item, I had asked about policies around this money and advance pay for when council members travel. So myself and Councilmember Salahuddin just traveled, and we have currently been holding balances on our own personal credit cards for the entry fee to the conferences we went to. And I was told that this would not change how any of that functions, but I do think that we as a council should look at our policies as far as how that travel money gets reimbursed. Other council members, when we were traveling, we found out got their per diems paid out to them in advance. Just wanted to bring up the conversation about not necessarily this item, but how we as a council should consider our policies around our own travel, and the heads up that we might want to increase that budget item later in the year when we come to it, because there are going to be more opportunities for us to travel since we decreased it the last couple of times due to the pandemic.
Thank you. I made a note.
Councilmember Stewart.
I appreciate the conversation. Thanks so much. I'm perfectly fine on the item. As for the most recent part of the conversation, I think there could be a policy implication for the council. There's also a matter of practice. So I have experienced it several different versions, and it's just kind of been dependent on the staffing of that legislative assistant role. So as council leadership goes into, I understand you're helping to hire for that role or screen for that role later next week, and then obviously supporting the onboarding of a permanent LA for us. That definitely could be an item that could use some clarity and consistency over time. Thanks.
Council President.
Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in that my hope would be when we have our legislative coordinator on board that that council members won't have to do any advance expenses themselves when they travel. It can all be set up because I don't think it's on a lot of the expenses so reasonable for us to have to front the money and then get reimbursed, especially because it's going to take a while. So, but it's not exactly related to this, but I think it is notable and also notable on Council Vice President Forsyth's comment that in the pandemic, we reduced the council travel budget significantly because we weren't traveling. So definitely something to look at.
Great, thank you. So just to be clear, this recent 4 or 5 minute conversation was a yes and type conversation, right? So nothing that you took notes on or that you are going to look into changes your ask for consent agenda. So any objections to this going on consent agenda? I see no objections. So we're good. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you so much.
And now we're on item 4, which is a budget amendment, a budget adjustment. Is there a difference between an amendment and an adjustment?
No.
Okay.
Said with conviction. So this is budget adjustment number 4. It's a cleanup budget adjustment, primarily adding grant revenues and also addressing the budget adjustment that was necessary in order to move REIT dollars to the senior center project in the Parks Capital Fund. Haritha spent a lot of time putting this together and is here for answer any questions.
So are we ready for questions then?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. Council members, any questions on this item? Councilmember Kritzer or Council President Kritzer?
I'll just say, great looking at this budget adjustment of all the grants put together that we've recently received and other revenues. So great to be able to make those adjustments and to true up on other decisions we've already made, such as the senior center.
Thank you. And Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you so much, not only for putting in the work to make the adjustment ready to go, but the memo. My favorite thing about the memo is how it clearly articulates where council has already adopted these items or approved these items. And so, as you said, this is the cleanup. That's a helpful reminder, not just to us, but the viewing public as well. The only one that stood out to me that was a tiny bit different was the private donation to the fire department in support of carbon neutrality. And I think we've previously been briefed on that as well. So thank you.
Anything else? So this will be on consent in a week?
On April 16th, yeah.
Perfect. I don't think, are there any objections? I see no objections, and I appreciate your straightforwardness. I think this is awesome. Thank you. Good work. Thank you. Which brings us to item 5, which is sort of a second time we've looked at the budget process.
So this monthly checking in with you, this month there's a few things that I wanted to check in with you on. First is the results of some of the internal rate setting that we've been doing. We've got insurance, fleet, and indirect costs ready to move into the budget offers, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity to get a glimpse of what those expenditures look like before we move forward. Also wanted to discuss with you the council budget priorities that were moved forward to me. I want to have a discussion just to make sure that we're clear on what it is that council is looking for, so that can make sure that the connections are made and council is given enough time to provide input as well as feedback. I today just really want to talk about capital investment and one-time expenditures. That is where we currently are at in the process. And then I'll come back in May and get your input on ongoing asks for the budget as we continue to move through the process. I did plan to bring you some updated year-end numbers for revenues, but we are still working our way through some questions there, as well as our salary and benefit forecast. Very, very close, but still just some outstanding questions that we want to resolve before we bring it. So you'll see those things in May. But what I do have to share with you is not on the agenda, but I've been working with TIS on the project to implement the recoupment of credit card fees as approved by council late last year. And I've received an update from project manager. Her name is Wanda Norman, the same angel that got us through the line when it comes to D365. And information that we've received is that we should be live by the end of the second quarter of 2024. Very minimal investment needed, about $30,000, primarily to cover costs on the utility billing Springbrook system, pay for some mailers that we want to make sure go out to customers to give enough notice. And then there's a contingency in there that I really don't think that we'll need, but just wanted to provide in case. But should be live this year, so that's exciting. And I'll provide more detail as we learn. So I'm going to let Haritha go ahead and share sort of where she is with the results of what we found so far. We've got a lot going on in the finance realm. We're still in there. I'm taking a deep dive into what we call the dark smoky room. I'll be starting this evening to really focus on the funding of the CIPs and BTIP. So things are moving along really well, and Haritha will share with you the results she has so far. Or not. We're done.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you. If I could ask Director Cochran a question in the interim while we wait. The credit card fees that you mentioned that will be recovered. So I just want to make sure I caught what you said. About near the end of the second quarter, we are going to start to be able to recover credit card processing fees that we studied last year. Is that 6 months ahead of schedule? Congratulations, and thank you so much. I know that was a big priority of the councils, and I appreciate your work on that, as well as Director Marchand's team. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Anderson.
I'm happy to follow up at the end. This was just another fun question for Kelly in the interim, so sorry.
As long as it's not a puppet show. Okay, we're ready?
Yeah, it worked. Thank you for waiting. All right, so as Kelly said, I just wanted to mention that in finance, we're working through all the other costs that are included in our budget. But some of them are indirect costs, fleet rates, risk insurance costs, and also the salary and benefit. So some of these costs has been already calculated. So I just wanted to show you the comparison between what was before and what's been calculated for this next biennium. Indirect costs, they're not directly attributed to a specific program, but they are necessary for overall functioning of the city. These are otherwise called overhead costs, and these are based on various allocation factors such as space that the city is using or the programs are using, and some personal costs and also administrative costs. If you compare, we also, just to let you know that we have done indirect cost study last year, so there is a new methodology that we have used, and also the allocation factors changed compared to what was done in 23-24 to 25-26. So you can see that our biennial change is about 21% increase in our indirect cost, and some of the major differences are we added recreation activity fund as one of our allocation program, and also other areas it got up or down depending upon the allocation factors that we have used. Any questions on the indirect cost? Yes?
Council President.
Sorry, you just mentioned the Recreation Activity Fund. Why did we decide to make that change to add that in there? Because I know that fund in particular typically is functions in a way where we do cost recovery on the direct costs incurred.
So we always had recreation activity fund in our indirect cost allocation factor. However, we removed that during the COVID, the pandemic time. So we removed it around 2020, and we did not add it until 2020. We did not do add it till 2024. So now we feel like it's time for us to add recreation activity fund as our allocation factor.
We were, yes, waiting for the RAF fund to recover from the impact of the pandemic. And we're feeling like with the fund balance that they have, the programming that they have scheduled, we can start to apply indirect costs to that fund.
And you expect there would be sufficient revenue to be able to cover it?
Yes, we've done the cash flow analysis, and then we'll have the ability to build into fees what we need to.
Okay, great. I just didn't want us to be putting ourselves in a position where, as I know, our Parks Department's been working so hard to bring that RAF up, and to say then they're in the red again.
So cash flow, and yes, we do have sufficient funds to.
I have an analyst who speaks of the RAF as if it's the child he never had. So he's very protective as well. So we are really, really careful with this fund, with what it does to the community and the staff that work within it. So carefully monitoring.
All right. Moving to fleet rates. Finance works with fleet staff to build these rates, and these rates are basically related to owning or purchasing of vehicles, maintenance and repairs of vehicles, insurance costs, and fuel. So these are all the factors that are associated to kind of come up with these fleet rates. And I have put together, again, the comparison from what was in 23-24 to 25-26, and there is about 26% increase, and there are various factors, primarily due to increase in cost, like increase in vehicle cost, increase in fuel cost, and generally the replacement schedule, the number of vehicles that has been added to the replacement schedule has added up this cost too. That's all I have to say about this.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you so much. I have a question on these fleet rates. One of the things that we funded in this current budget was the fleet study. Council's not yet heard the analysis of that, but have you heard the analysis of that and built that into, obviously that's forward-looking and is much bigger picture, but were you able to view that before working on these rates?
Yes, so when we were working with the fleet staff, we did incorporate some of the fleet study and results into this rate model. However, the impact of the fleet study it won't show until in future years.
Understood.
We can't see that in the next 2 years.
Thank you.
Yep.
Actually, can I just follow up real quick? That's an interesting question, and I understood your answer, but I'm not quite sure I understand the timing. So we're doing the study, and then we're going to take some actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when will we take those actions?
So as per the manager of the fleet study will be done at the end of this year. They'll have the final report for that. So we will incorporate the results of this fleet study in the next biennium. So the rates will go down in the 27-28 budget.
They might go down.
They could go down.
They could go down.
They say they'll go down.
Yes.
Okay, so if the timing is sooner, would we be looking at then a budget amendment after a year?
If the differences are significant, and I would recommend to do a budget adjustment, yes.
Yeah. I'll make a mental note during the review. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Kritzer.
Councilmember Nueva Camina has her hand up.
Oh, sorry. Councilmember Nueva Camina.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Councilmember Fields. A question about the transportation rates and then the further discussion about how rates may go down. It sounds that it's hopeful that they're going to go down in coming years. We could say, okay, so rates have gone up, and we could say that they only went up by 16,008. It was a significant increase over this biennium. So when we're talking about the rates could go down, are we talking about like just a couple of percentages, or and of course, being a newer council member, still coming up to speed on like what drove up our rates to nearly double, over almost 85%.
So I think what we're seeing now is impacts of our current policies, costs of our current policies. As we move to implement the things that the cost study will suggest, I would imagine that we will be reducing our expenditures, which is what will be the main driver to reduce the rates. I believe that we will be seeing, less vehicles being owned by the city. That's kind of up to Public Works to share with you, but I think that that's one factor. So it's a change in how we manage the business that will lead to reductions in the rates. So it'll have to do with replacement rates, the types of vehicles, as we move from electric or to electric as well. Will have some impacts. But as we know, we will build things in and make adjustments to budget if needed.
Thank you.
Councilmember Anderson.
Just to clarify, this is about cars. Okay. And then I noticed that Councilmember Nueva Camina pointed out the increases, and the one that's the largest are some of the smallest amounts. So, that's concerning, but also not super concerning. I'm just curious if people are driving around more, or like what are we seeing technology and information services using vehicles more often for now?
We can check for you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It may just be gas prices at this point, so thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. All right.
Great.
All right, moving on. Risk insurance rates. These rates, they refer to the chance of occurrence of something harmful or unexpected that might include loss or damage of the valuable assets. City policies include general liability, auto liability, travelers' property, and indemnity. This is what we have currently as a city, and then this also work as the same way, like we have to calculate these rates and spread it around to the departments. Over the years, what I have noticed in the risk insurance rates has gone up. Even in the last biennium, they have gone up by 20%, and so that the next biennium. So we have increased our rates, premiums by 15%, and also we are expecting that the claims will increase too. So that's kind of one of the major reason why there's 25% increase compared to the last biennium. There are several factors that are associated to these calculation. One of the biggest factor is FTEs by department. So that is one of the way that we calculate these rates by department. And in 23-24, we had a certain number of FTEs that were adopted, and over the biennium, we have added more FTEs to our city, whether it is TBD or Thrive, or we have added 1.28 to parks. So this will add up the cost of the risk insurance rates also. So that's one of the second factor. That is the second factor why these rates have gone up.
Yes, Council President.
Got it working. My understanding was that in our last budget, we ended up having to budget for a significant increase on insurance due to a significant claim that we ended up having to make before that. But that was that was unusual. And so I guess I'm just curious, because if we use some of the same growth rates from that budget, which I understood to be a big jump, are we maybe projecting a little high in terms of the increased rates?
Yeah, this is a much lower increase than we experienced in the last budget. So in 2022, our policy had to be renewed, and the cost of renewing the policy was quite expensive. There was the large claim, and I'm sure that had some piece of that. We will not be in a position of needing to renew our policy within, other than just our annual renewal. We won't have to go and obtain quotes and a new policy. And working with the insurance company, they are expecting that our premiums would increase approximately 12% a year. We've added an additional 3% to adjust for increased claims that we're seeing, but I think that we're in alignment with where we need to be. The last increase that we saw, it more than doubled the cost of insurance. It was like a $2 million increase, and we are not there.
Director, let me ask you a question. So this is always the case. You bring us numbers and we start asking you questions, but we're really not analyzing the budget at this point. And I don't want to discourage you from bringing us things in the future. So would it be fair to say we need to limit our questions on specifics at this point, because this is sort of a preview to a discussion we're going to have later?
It is a preview, but I'm here because, and sharing with you, tedious, painful information to share with you, but I want you to be aware of it. I want you to have the opportunity to see it and ask questions when it's fresh in your mind. Here anytime to ask questions in the future as well. But I just want to make sure that we're sharing with you, first of all, information as it becomes available to us. I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to see it, ask questions about it, so that when things come full circle, it won't be a surprise. But certainly, I'm happy to entertain whatever is needed.
So if you're good with it, I'm good with it. Great, thank you.
Yep. So the last thing that we wanted to touch base on today was what we had heard as far as council policies, our council budget priorities, excuse me. So there was 4 things that came in under capital. One was related to fleet, so I moved it to a different section. But we received sort of three requests within the capital realm. One was for bicycle safety improvements. We have some cricket requests as well as community performing arts space. And I was hoping to get sort of some thoughts, ideas about expectations, about investments, level investments, how you want to hear about these things. So for example, bicycle safety improvements. So I'm, as I said, going into the dark smoky room to fund the CIP. I haven't taken a look at the list yet, but I know that there will be an inventory of bicycle safety improvements. So is that something that you want me to share when we bring the CIP to you in June? Or is there some specific ask that you want to make sure that we cover now?
So I'm going to ask Council President. I think that you and Council Vice President really organized that data and organized the subcommittees. So I'm happy if you take this part of the meeting over, and I think it might facilitate the discussion better. Are you good with that?
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I'll just give my overview on these three, and then if anyone else wants to jump in, if I summarize incorrectly, feel free. The first one on bicycle safety improvements, we've proposed to actually form a subcommittee of a couple of us to work to talk about bike ped planning as well as flexible transit. And this was kind of to ensure that the outcomes of that discussion, which is to really be forward thinking about how we plan for bike safety in our city, think about investing in more things like protected bike lanes, and really follow up on a lot of the work we're doing on the Safer Streets for All, what that would look like in terms of increased budgeting towards that in the capital budget, just knowing that that's a big priority. We'd like to see a lot of that, okay. So put that on the list. The other two of these, I think we had some discussion about, and we wanted to keep them on the list so there was the interest. Cricket pitches, we discussed how it does show up in our park plan. And so we just wanted to reiterate our support in this budget and following budgets for ensuring that we're building, more infrastructure, lining fields, et cetera. Not necessarily adding something new, but more kind of supporting what's in the existing plan we approved. And then on the community performing arts space, you'll see under I think it got put under goals, but it was more a note about it, which is that we recognize we didn't actually put that, for example, in our park plan yet. It is in the parks element, I think, for 2050. But at the moment, I think we discussed that we kind of look at how it gets incorporated in 2050 and potentially encourage public-private partnerships that are out there on that. So I think there was some councilmember interest in responding to the fact that we've heard from community members of interest on this, but aren't expecting that to be in the CIP this time. Okay. So I'll pause there, and I can also summarize on the next slide as well, if that's helpful.
So what I heard, and I'm aware that the subcommittees are getting organized and kicking off soon, and I will wait to hear the results of that work and connect that back to the CIP. The other then, we will also be sure that we cover those items when we bring the CIP presentation to council in June and July, so you're clear on how far we were able or not able to get in providing that and what we think really is sort of the next steps for providing that in future budget updates. Great. So then,
You're still.
You were just giving me the floor to speak. Yeah, well, here. If you want to speak, of course, Councilmember Fields.
So one thing on the bicycle safety, what would be helpful to the mayor's staff and all of the people who would be would a report from the subcommittee on what, and then we would have to go through council with what our expectations are, because we've really had difficulty defining. I mean, it's clear what we want, but we've had trouble actually formalizing and defining those requests. So a written report would be helpful, and then the planning director, et cetera, Public Works could comment on it or provide, yes, we can do that, it'll only be $1 billion, or yes, we can do that within the budget we expect, or
I
something.
think that approach will work. I also believe that you'll be working with subject matter experts as part of the subcommittee work, and so you'll be able to actively problem solve as part of these conversations.
Okay, great, thank you.
And, my hope would be actually as that for all the subcommittees that we'll be doing work with the staff, and then we'll put it on agendas to come back to the council before the budget for all these subcommittees, so that if there are budget implications, we can have those discussions early, make sure that gets in there, and hopefully it just keeps getting transmitted back to the finance staff as we're doing that work.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say is the clock is ticking, because if they're going to be doing these CIP budgets June, July, June, July is not that far away.
It's all right. Everything will be okay.
Thank you.
All right, and then our one-time items, again, some proposals, and I just want to make sure that we've got the information that we need to be able to consider and deliver.
Are there specific questions that you have on these?
So for grants for businesses displaced, is there a dollar amount that you're looking for? The item number 3, I was wondering if that's something that was intended to occur through the allocation of human services dollars, or if this is something added on top. I believe I am good with item number 4. I've had an opportunity to speak with Councilmember Fields, and we'll be moving some conversations about purchasing through council starting in May, and that will just kick off sort of discussions about improvements there, and we'll just keep moving. So I think number 4 I'm clear, but others would be really helpful. Any additional info?
Great. I think number 1's pretty clear. Number 2, the grants for businesses displaced by light rail was an idea of kind of thinking about as light rail comes in, and especially real estate prices go up, just being able to help support some resiliency there. And I think that's a topic that would be a good one for us to put on a future agenda to hash out more. I think it was a great idea raised during the retreat, but don't have as much specifics. So it would be great to be able to have some discussion in a future council meeting on that one. And then I guess the number 3, I think I don't want to speak for her. I think this was Councilmember Anderson's, was just reiterating support for the allocation we did this past year, and just making sure that that's still in there.
Thank you.
And then I think the last one was just making sure that we allocate appropriate funding based on what we learned from the fleet study to be able to electrify our fleet.
Yeah. Excellent.
I think we have Councilmember Anderson. Is your hand still up?
No, that was just my.
Thanks. Got it. I'm sorry, Councilmember Anderson. So then we have Council Vice President Forsyth, and then Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you. Just wanted to expand a little on number 2 for the business displacement. This is something we've been talking about for a while, and I think may partially be covered by some of the work that Philly and her team are doing, and maybe from the economic outreach and that work that's coming down the pipe too. But just making sure that we're actually flagging that we want to put some money aside for this work as well.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, and thanks for bringing the conversation forward. I think that the council has some responsibility in leading decision-making here. So in looking at the council retreat notes on the one-time items, there's a different number of one-time items than there are in the notes, actually. But anyway, a couple of these items received several more votes, which was the system we were using, and some of these received just presumably the vote of the sponsor or one vote. So I want to just balance council's ability to prioritize and how we use, I really appreciated in the last budget cycle that Mr. Fields ran that we really did make sure we had 4 thumbs every time we were assigning work to staff or appointing a direction or determining a direction or whatnot. So I just want to make sure that we have clarity on that because we have went through so much on that day, and I just want to make sure we're clear for staff which items to be working on and which items didn't quite make it or are on the list for next time.
My plan is to provide you with sort of an idea or a proposal of where staff would suggest that we go and give you the opportunity to, yay or nay or next time from there. I did add one item to this list. I moved it from capital, which was item number 5. For us, that's not a capital, it's just a one-time so that's why there's a different number.
I would add on this that just as a clarification to that is I think the ranking should hopefully give you an idea of where there's most interest. So if budgets are tight, right, start with the top and go to the bottom. But I would say that we did have the opportunity to say, do we want to take anything off or like not have anything on here? And I didn't hear from any council members saying they were against some of these things. So, and I would also note, just to the 4 thumbs comment, that when we did this exercise, we all only got 3 dots. And so, so if there is, so 3 votes doesn't mean that there aren't 4 council members interested in it. It was just because we only got 3 dots. There was a maximum number there. And I think we had a lot of good discussion on many of these topics, although hopefully the ranking helps as we have to make some tough choices.
It does. Thank you.
So did we get an answer to item 3 to the director's question, which is, did we intend to put that on the grants for health and human services?
I believe that I heard it was an investment that we made in the last budget cycle, and we want to make sure that we do that again. So I'll research from the fire perspective what we did and what that looked like, and I'll bring it back if there's any issues.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. That's it for me. Next month, I'll bring back a discussion on ongoing, as well as some updates to salary and benefits and revenues.
Councilmember Anderson?
This was my question that I almost interrupted Haritha on earlier. If I can add to this, if that would be okay?
Sure, of course.
Before you wrap. We talked earlier about data governance and just looking at all the capital improvements and kind of setting up for the budget process. I wanted to encourage you and Director Marchand to work together and maybe think about how we track intangible assets in the city, because data is an intangible asset. So my assumption, and this came up when we were talking about indirect costs, would be that there would be some need in that area for doing something like that. And of course, it will probably take a little bit of lead time on that to understand. But
thank you. We are working on a fixed asset module implementation. Some of our intangible assets we track as fixed assets. So yeah, we're hoping that'll help.
Okay, great. And it would be awesome to hear a little bit about that and if we are thinking about data in that way. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I think that, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And I think that brings us to the end of the meeting, unless someone has something for good for the, I think we have something, Council President.
Just very quickly, I think I had mentioned at a previous meeting that we're hoping to process all of the committee work plans this month so we can vote on them as a package at the beginning of next month, and realized too late that that it wasn't on this agenda. So wanted to give council members the option. We could put it onto a committee agenda later this month, or we could potentially just have it emailed out, and if people want to just send in any concerns or comments, you can email them to COO files. So I guess I'll put that out as the 2 options.
Councilmember Anderson.
Can we pick it up on another committee?
Yeah.
We can put it on another committee.
Yeah.
Is that something you said? Because I missed it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And talking with Director Cochran, she's going to email out the finance work plan in the next day or 2 to all of the council members. So
Perfect. Yeah. So I'll discuss with the committee chairs of the final two committees we have this month about which one we can fit that discussion on, and maybe we'll combine it with the work plan discussion on those ones. Perhaps, I think Director Hamilton said there may be room on the Parks and Environmental Sustainability agenda, so I'll follow up with Councilmember Nueva Camino on that.
Perfect. So if there's nothing else, I would say we are adjourned. Thank you so much.